Good day, readers, and welcome to Chapter 3 of Balto of the Blue Dawn. Today, like I said before, we are reading Chapter 3, so please join me on page 26 of your book. All right, here we go. Chapter 3, A Race Against Time. The Alaskan boy looked at Jack and Annie. "They can't delay it," he whispered frantically. "It sounds like medicine is on its way," Jack said, trying to calm him. "It will arrive once the storm passes." "But it needs to get here as soon as possible," said Oki. "The doctor said," started Annie. "The doctor can do nothing till the medicine arrives," Oki said. "But there is something I can do." He headed down the hall and hurried out the front door of the hospital into the dark. As he left, a gust of frigid air blew into the waiting room. "That's it," Annie said to Jack. "What?" he said. "Our mission. Help save the lives of these sick people," Annie said. "That's why Merlin sent us here." "I think you're right," said Jack. "So let's talk to the doctor and nurse and find out what we can do." "No, we should go," said Annie. "Go where?" asked Jack. "Go save Oki's life first," Annie said. "But he's not one of the people in danger," said Jack. "He will be. He's going to do something crazy. I can feel it," said Annie. "Come on." She took off down the hallway and out the front door. Jack followed her into the icy cold. The moon was full and bright overhead. "There," said Annie before Jack could stop her. She took off after the Alaskan boy. "Oki, wait!" she shouted. Jack hurried after Annie down the moonlit boardwalk. When they caught up with Oki, they were panting, their breath billowing into the air. "Stop," said Annie. "We want to help you." "How can you help me?" said the boy. He kept walking. Annie and Jack fell into step behind him. "We came to know to help people fight the epidemic," said Annie. "Only the medicine can help," said Oki. "They might all die soon if they do not get the medicine." "Why can't they bring the medicine here by boat?" asked Jack. "The sea is frozen," said Oki. "Just look." "Well, what about by plane?" said Annie. "No plane can fly at 40 or 50 degrees below zero," said Oki. "The pilot would freeze." "Oh, yeah, you're right," said Jack. "Planes in 1925 must still have open cockpits," he thought. "A car?" asked Annie. "No roads in the winter," said Oki. "The only way to Nome is by dog sled over the mail trail." "So what do you plan to do?" asked Jack. "I will take a team of dogs and find Gunnar Kazan," said Oki. "I will travel through the storm and bring the medicine back myself." "But what about that blizzard?" asked Jack. "The one the mayor was talking about, the huge blizzard sweeping down from the Arctic." "Any good musher with a good team of dogs can handle a blizzard," said Oki. "Where's your team?" asked Annie. "My Uncle John is a mail carrier," said Oki. "He has a team that runs to Port Safety in Solomon and beyond all the time." "So your Uncle Joe will go with you?" asked Annie. "No, he has a broken leg from a sled accident," said Oki. "But I'm not afraid to go alone." Jack and Annie hurried alongside Oki until they came to a shack on a spit of land near the frozen sea. So here's our picture. It says Jack and Annie hurried alongside Oki until they came to a shack on a spit of land near the frozen sea. In the bright moonlight, Jack could see that the shack was made of old driftwood and flattened tin cans. Smoke was rising out of the stovepipe on the roof. "This is my uncle's house," said Oki, "and those are his huskies." Next to the small house was a dog pen surrounded by a wire fence. A dog sled was inside the pen. 8 huskies were sleeping in the snow, their dark bodies curled up together to keep warm. "Oh, wow," breathed Annie. The dogs woke up at the sound of voices. They leapt to their feet and began yipping and whining. "Hi, guys," Annie said. She hurried to the fence to pet them. "Careful," said Oki. "They are very strong. They can jump up." But Annie had an instant connection with the dogs. "You're so beautiful," she said, reaching over the fence and rubbing different furry heads. "Hey, what's your name? What's your name?" As Annie spoke, the dogs flattened their ears and their lips curved into smiles. "They really like her," Oki said to Jack. He sounded impressed. "Yeah, Annie has a special way with animals," said Jack, "especially dogs." Oki smiled for the first time. Do you and Annie want to come inside and get warm? He said. Sure, thanks, said Jack. Jack and Annie followed the Alaskan boy into the shack. Inside, a lantern lit a drafty room that smelled of fish and kerosene. Scratchy band music came from a wooden radio with big knobs. I must speak to my uncle. He is in bed, said Oki. He opened a door and slipped into another room. Jack and Annie looked around. Strips of dried dark pink fish hung from a rack near the stove, which was made from an old metal barrel. Wooden barrels were set as chairs around a wooden table. Voices came from the other room. Jack recognized Oki's. But I can go alone. No, you cannot, said a deep, rasping voice. Jack wondered if he and Annie should leave. It seemed wrong to overhear a family argument. Let's go outside, he said to Annie. But we have to help fight the epidemic, she said. I know, said Jack. Maybe it would be better to go back to the hospital and... Listen, Annie interrupted. She pointed to the radio. The music stopped. A news bulletin had come on. A desperate drama is unfolding in Alaska, in the town of Nome, the broadcaster said. Nome, said Annie. She turned up the volume on the radio. All eyes are on this small icebound town in the Northern Territory, where an outbreak of diphtheria has already claimed 5 lives. 20 of the best mushers and more than 160 dogs have been heroically running a relay across the frozen tundra. They must travel a total of 600 miles to get medicine from Nenana, Alaska, to the town of Nome. That's us, said Oki, hurrying back into the room. But now a blizzard threatens to curtail the efforts to save the residents of Nome, the announcer said. The storm is expected to sweep down from the Arctic, with 40-mile-per-hour winds and temperatures as low as 30 degrees below zero. Oh, man, said Jack. It is unclear whether the mushers and their teams of heroic dogs will be able to continue, the announcer said. The medicine is now in the hands of champion musher Gunnar Kassan. Will he and his lead dog Balto be forced to stop their life-saving journey? Balto, said Annie. Didn't we see a statue of him in Central Park in New York? Yeah, but I can't remember why he's so famous, said Jack. Me neither, said Annie. Will the blizzard keep the medicine from getting to the sick and dying in Nome? The announcer said. It's a race against time. A race against death. Then the man's voice turned cheerful, and now we return to the music of King Oliver's Creole Jazz Band. The lively music came back on, and Oki turned the radio off. I'm taking the dogs, he said. He grabbed a burlap sack hanging near the door and started filling it with dried fish. I'll take this to feed them along the way. I'll find Kassan. I know. Do not go. Please. Jack and Annie turned to see a native Alaskan man hobbling into the room on a crutch. He had long jet black hair and wore a full fur pullover with a hood. He had a weathered face and dark eyes. He barely glanced at Jack and Annie as he fixed his gaze on Oki. If Gunnar, Kassan, and Balto cannot travel in this weather, neither can you, he said. I can at least try, Uncle Joe, said Oki. I have to. He kept throwing fish into the sack. Do not go out there alone, Oki, rasped his uncle. You are not a champion like Seppala or Kassan, and none of my dogs are as strong as Togo or Balto. It doesn't matter how great Kassan is, said Oki. If he is sitting at the roadhouse in Solomon, if he waits for good reason, said Oki's uncle. Any team can be lost in a blizzard. Let me go, please, Oki said, facing his uncle. No, shouted the man. Jack held his breath as he looked back and forth from Oki to his uncle. Annie started to interrupt, but Jack shook his head at her. This isn't our business, he thought. I have run the trail many times, said Oki. I can do it with my eyes closed. But I've always been with you, his uncle said. You have never gone out alone. I have to try, said Oki. Who will help you in a whiteout? His uncle asked. Who will help you if the ice breaks and moves out to sea? You will be gone forever. Maybe, but what about my mother? Oki cried. And my sister. They can't breathe. They can't swallow. They are on fire with fever. I promised them the medicine would arrive tonight. If it doesn't come soon, they will be gone forever. I have to hurry. You heard the radio. It's a race against death. Oki slung the sack of dried fish over his shoulder, picked up the kerosene lantern from the table, and hurried outside. All right, friends, we're going to have to see what happens in our book tomorrow, chapter 4. I hope you are enjoying our story. I love sled dog teams, especially after we had our special presentation. All right, friends, see you tomorrow in reading.